you being an expert in the field, this is against the Constitution. What is it?
Absolutely against it. Absolutely against the Constitution.
Of the Constitution, that only Congress has the right to vote to go to war?
Madison could not have been clearer that the right to fight war and the right to declare war are inevitably and permanently separated. But when the Congress in 1973 gave Nixon this power, and again, he misread it. He thought it crimped his style. He felt the president could, like Lincoln, that the president could use all the troops he wanted, wherever and whenever he wanted, and didn't need congressional authorization. Congress said, no, it's only for 2 90-day periods. But Joe Biden could fight a 180-day war, and 100,000 American boys and girls could be slaughtered, and there's nothing the Congress or the American public can do about it.
So that's what I said. It's not a prince that became a king.
Correct.
They're in charge of our lives.
Correct. I mean, that is a state of affairs nowhere countenanced in the Constitution.
So now we're looking at the Ukraine war would have long been over if the United States and NATO did not send tens of billions of dollars in deadly weapons to keep the war going. Plus, Putin just came out in a speech, again, blaming the West for accelerating this and saying that NATO and the United States actually had, they're there running the war, basically.
Putin's correct. We have troops on the ground. They are out of uniform, which allows Biden to say, we don't have battle forces there. They are showing, they're running intel, American and British, and American and British are teaching the Ukrainians how to use American and NATO equipment. And so your listeners know the government is not buying new equipment from Raytheon and all those characters and sending it to Ukraine. The government is sending equipment already in Poland to Ukraine, depleting American supplies, according to Major Ritter and Colonel McGregor. Our own supplies of defensive weaponry are dangerously low because we have given away so much of it to the Ukrainians. Raytheon is overjoyed because the Pentagon keeps saying, build more, build more, build more. For us, we're depleting our supplies. Do the Ukrainians know how to operate what we're sending them? Absolutely not. Can they learn how to operate it in a day or a week? Absolutely not. The Ukrainian technical guys are being shipped to Poland, where they spend 2 months being taught how to use the American and NATO equipment. Then they bring that equipment back to Ukraine. Who's paying for all of this? The American taxpayer. Not now, because the government doesn't have the cash. Borrowed money. So future generations of taxpayers, you can't make this up, will be paying for this. Just like we're still paying for Vietnam and we're still paying for World War I, because the government never has enough money to pay its bills and it borrows.
When you mention Vietnam, people don't realize then again, that clown, that other murderous little lowlife piece of crap, Lyndon Baines Johnson, LBJ, it should have been FUCK, the little arrogant nothing of a jerk. Remember the guns and butter baloney that they did?
Yeah. Yes.
That was the beginning of the inflation spike of America.
Correct.
Because the war goes on. It begins really big time right after they assassinated JFK in 1963. By 1971, you're seeing inflation skyrocketing, going through the roof. Why? Because of this war and all the fake money to keep it going, just like they keep doing it now.
Oh, but wait a minute, Gerald. Inflation is caused by greedy businessmen wanting more money in their pockets, according to Joe Biden. Yeah. And according to every politician, according to the chairman of the Federal Reserve. I mean, this is absurd. Inflation only has one cause: government inflating the money supply by
That's right.
printing, which it did before World War II, or adding zeros on the accounts of Chase Manhattan Bank and Bank of America, which it's done since the advent of computers. More
And
money.
again, the bankster gang, the Federal Reserve, bringing interest rates to zero. So here's
Correct.
the cheap money. Just keep the game going.
Correct. Now they gradually raise the interest rates, and the stock market tanks. Interest is the rent you pay for money, just like the rent you pay for your apartment anywhere in the country, except New York, which has rent control, which was only supposed to last during World War II. It should float. It should float with supply and demand.
Yep.
It's none of the government's business what my bank charges me to borrow money. That's between my bank and me.
Again,
this is economics 101. I mean, this is so basic. These people are so absorbed in their own power, they think they can change the laws of economics and the laws of physics.
well, you just summed it up. They're absorbed in their power. And that's where we're at today. So now the power game is really heating up. And Russia has announced that they're going to increase their offensive against Ukraine, or it should be, so that's going to heat up the war even more. And we're in a very, very dangerous place, as I see it. Again, World War III has actually begun, and Putin is mentioning that as well.
Yes.
That, they're involved in this war. This is not a proxy war. We're at war. And if we don't stop it, it's going to get much worse. And again, we must unite for peace, or else we're going to die for war. So everyone, please consider donating to Occupy Peace, occupypeace.com. The judge, Scott Ritter, Gary Null, Phil Giraldi, McGregor, all of us, we're really out there fighting and doing all we can to bring peace on earth, goodwill to all. And we have crazy people running and ruining our lives. And if we don't reverse this trend, it's just going to decline to, I believe, nuclear war.
Sorry to say that I agree with you. I mean, I'm not sorry that you're right. I'm sorry that it will come to that.
Yeah.
And Putin alluded to it just 24 hours ago. He didn't use the words nuclear war or nuclear weaponry, but he said he will do what he has to do in order to end this. He now is under pressure to end this. This has dragged on far longer than the people around him who support him thought it would. He's still very popular with the Russian people. He shrewdly hasn't instituted a draft. He's not instituted a national mobilization, which would be millions of troops. This is small by Russian standards, 300,000 troops, only 30 of which will be infantry, the rest all support troops. But he knows this has to end soon from his perspective. And if Joe Biden and Tony Blinken and Lloyd Austin, the American Secretary of State and Defense, think that Putin will accept a free, independent, and Western-oriented Ukraine, they're out of their minds. Yeah. They don't know history, and they don't know Putin.
Well, they are out of their minds, and that's all that really counts. They're egomaniacs. And again, you couldn't get clearer with a little clown like Blinken boy. Another daddy's boy. I went to Dalton. I went to Harvard. Another arrogant, warmongering little freak. There hasn't been a war that little clown didn't love, of push and support, like Biden, the draft dodger Biden. And Lloyd Austin, you mentioned, our Secretary of Defense, just came from the board of directors of Raytheon, the second largest defense contractor in the United States.
Yes.
So thank you very much.
I don't know how this ends. I don't know how Joe Biden and even Republicans in the Congress who keep voting to send this money over there will fare when Russia wins. I just don't know how this ends. I wish it would end soon, because it's causing needless death and destruction. Death of innocent Ukrainians, death of conscripted Russians, destruction of the American dollar.
Oh, don't forget, too, the United States is sending I think, $12 billion of weaponry to Taiwan, our money,
Yes.
and weaponry to Jordan.
Yes.
Several
Why does
billion
Congress?
dollars.
Why does Congress vote for this? A, the intelligence community has dirt on Congress. B, the industrial complex in the United States has shrewdly placed its manufacturing plants throughout the country. So members of Congress know, oh, they employ so many people in my congressional district. I better vote to buy more weapons from them. So it's a vicious cycle that just keeps going on and on and on. It probably won't end until the federal government collapses of its own weight, and people like Chuck Schumer will no longer be able to collect a salary because the dollars will be worthless.
Yeah. Again, the dollar's only strong because the other currencies are going down so hard.
Right.
Yeah. So thank you, Judge. We'll see you next week. And remember, everybody, spread the word for peace. Occupy peace. Thank you, Judge.
Pleasure.